renderforest.com.
Hi all, I'm Trisha Peach, host of the Peach Buzz. I hope all of you are safe and healthy. If you're an extrovert like me, this is already about driven you bonkers. I thought I might have a whole conversation with my toaster to see who wanted to watch that. But I'm excited that spring is here. It's almost summer. Nobody knows what's going to happen next and how things are going to turn out except God. He's still in charge. But I wanted to talk about some great ideas that I've heard, maybe some that just ideas I've heard for churches that are reopening or considering reopening. And if your church is not reopening yet, as I mean live, opening your sanctuary up, if your church is not doing that yet, then you still should be thinking about what you're going to do when you do reopen, because most churches are not saying never. So we got to start considering, what are you going to do when we do reopen? The first idea that I have heard that I personally think is kind of a good idea, take out some churches are actually doing this. Some of them I've talked to, they are taking out all the pews and they are putting in chairs, and then they're separating the chairs. Now I don't know how they plan to keep all of them 6 feet apart, because some have bigger families, some have smaller families, but they're trying to keep the sections of chairs 6 feet apart is what they're doing. I think that is safer than pews, because pews, you're going to be stuffed in there with people. So that's one idea. The second idea I've seen is hand sanitizer stations put throughout the church. Now, myself, being in the public schools so often, I'm all for that. Even without coronavirus, I like having hand sanitizer everywhere. So that's a good idea. And the thing is, when it's visual, you're letting people know that you care. You're letting people know we care about your safety. We care about you. We love you. We don't want you getting sick. We don't want you catching this. The third thing has been a little more controversial, and that is asking all of your volunteers to wear gloves. And as some of our medical professionals have pointed out, in a lot of ways it's completely useless unless they change gloves every single time they touch someone or a surface. The only thing gloves are really going to be good for would be to send a message to people that you're doing what you can and you care. They aren't really helping too much against fighting coronavirus. But if you're using them, it may give people a sense of security that you are doing your best, that you are trying. Number 4, some churches are not doing handshaking, at least for a while after coming back. They're doing the elbow bump. I personally, again, because I'm in the schools so much, I think it's a great idea. But on the other hand, I'm also a hugger. So is my mom. We like hugs, and you might be one of them that really, really wants hugs. We may have to be really careful about that for a while. It is what it is. Some churches are making changes in the way they do communion. Some churches, now at my church, we have individual communion cups, but some places they have one cup that everyone's drinking out of, or you're passing the bread and each pulls off a piece. I think during coronavirus, we're going to have to be really careful about spreading things that way, and it's going to mean some changes. It's going to mean we have to do things a little differently. Another change that some churches are making is they are not going back to kids ministry as it was before, not right away. Instead, they're going to do family services where the children sit with their parents for a while. And I completely understand that, because the question that we've been talking about in the kids ministry forums is, what do we do to make kids ministry safer? Well, as you know, they run around, they play games, they drink out of each other's cups. Let's just be honest, they lick the water fountain. They're out, they're doing stuff all day, and it's hard to, how are you going to make kids social distance 6 feet apart? I can see why some churches are going this route, that they'll be sitting with their parents for a while. However, if I could just point something out, if you are making it a family service where the children are sitting with their parents, don't call it a family service unless you're truly going to make it for the whole family. What I mean by that is, don't just have a service geared entirely for adults, adult music, adult sermon, adult altar call, and then stuff the kids in there and tell them to put up, shut up, and be quiet and deal. No, if it's a family service, then you need to add elements that will interest the kids. You need to add children's ministry elements into the service. You'll be shocked how much the adults love it too. And pastors who are watching this, you're going to have to stretch a little bit. You're going to have to flex. Nobody saw this coming. But if you don't engage those kids, you're losing them. This is an opportunity. I would say have your children's pastor come up and do something with puppets. Have them do a short object lesson. Have them do, have the kids act out a story. Now, we had this big to-do at our church that if we had puppets in the main service, the adults might get offended and not handle. Oh, the adults loved it, especially the ones coming over from the elderly care home. They loved the puppets, and so we ended up bringing them back a lot. So yes, add children's ministry elements in there. The adults can suck it up. They can deal with it. We're the grown-ups. We should be able to deal with that. And you'd be surprised how often the adults learn something because they've never seen the gospel message portrayed in a simple, powerful manner. I've done altar calls for kids before and have adults come forward and say, I finally understood what that means. So add kids ministry elements in there. If they're going to be in the main sanctuary sitting with their parents, for heaven's sake, don't waste that opportunity and don't make them never want to come to church again. You need to add elements in there for adults, teenagers, married people, singles, elderly. You don't think you can? You can. You absolutely can. That's part of your job as a minister, is to speak across generational lines. And for children's pastors, I don't believe this is a blow to you. You're going to be so needed, and a smart pastor is going to put you to good use during this time. I know some children's pastors have been worrying. Some have been cut, drastically reduced in hours. I want you to know I'm so sorry. I am praying for you. I think a wise church is going to hang on to their children's pastor. That's going to be key in reaching this next generation. And one of the last suggestions I wanted to say was, and most churches I talked to are saying this, most of them are saying, now that we have done more of this online, why haven't we done this before? And no, we're not going to stop doing it online. There will be families and people with significant health risks that are not going to just come right back into church right away. And that's totally understandable. And look at how many more people we're reaching. I actually said that to my dad, because my dad, he's, oh man, I miss having church with people. I get it. I totally get it. But I said, Dad, you're used to having, 100 people on a Sunday morning hear your sermon, and now you've got 300 on a Sunday morning hearing your sermon. One pastor I talked to, he was used to having 50, and now he's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that hear a sermon every week. I do not believe God caused coronavirus, but God can bring good out of every situation. And in this case, it forced some of us to learn to do ministry in new ways. And I do not believe we need to drop those new ways as soon as we can go back. We need to keep communicating in the language that the next generation understands. And the next generation speaks mostly in social media terms and online. So this is one more way that we can communicate and reach out. I also have heard some pastors say, well, what if people are scared by the coronavirus and it makes them turn toward the church wanting answers? Why is this happening? then we need to be there for them. We need to be there for them. And this is a great time for a message of salvation. This is a time to preach Jesus unashamedly. And it's a time to reach whole families for Christ. So how about you? What ideas do you have when your church reopens to keep people safe and to keep moving forward? Please comment with your ideas down below. Which ones of these do you like? Which do you completely disagree with? God bless you. Please stay safe. Please help others stay safe. And I'm praying for you guys. Keep your chin up and keep doing what God's called you to do. Your ministry matters. Thank you for blessing the church. And I will talk to you later next week on the Peach Buzz. Bye.